Bellerin.
All right, everybody. Arsenal news never stops, so we don't stop here at Saved by the Bellerin. Welcome to a Snap podcast on a Saturday. News is breaking. I'm here with Dean, and hopefully we'll have Ryan joining us in a few minutes, but we'd be remiss if we let this story pass. Just a couple of hours ago, the team announced on its website, confirming rumors that have been swirling, certainly for the last 24 hours, that Raul Sanllehi, who is, I guess this official title is Director of Football at Arsenal Football Club, has left. It seems this is by mutual agreement. The club wished him well. This does not seem like a rancorous parting, but it seemed like a planned parting. As we were joking offline, as I've been joking, it seems that Raul was the 56th redundancy after the infamous 55 redundancies were announced a week ago, Wednesday. Dean, quite a surprise, but it seems it opens a lot of possibilities for the club.
It was a definite surprise. I mean, there were mumblings over the last 24 hours, something was going to happen. And, we were just sort of discussing it, not sure what the noise was. And then lo and behold, a statement out of nowhere comes and says, Raul's gone. And as you say, wished him well. He put out a statement saying he was glad to have had his time here. But what does it mean, for us? Mm-hmm. Are things going to change? Are things going to stay the same? Is it, will Vinay be in? I mean, things are going to be, I feel very different, but I feel this has been hinted to us by Edu, by Arteta over the course of the last few months, personally.
All right, well, let's put a lot of data points together, because this actually ties together a lot of bizarre factoids that have been floating out there for the last week or two that we couldn't make sense of. I want to step back to a point I made on a pod about 2 weeks ago, and I said, let's look at the timeline. Dean, we talked about this. The timeline for Arsenal has been completely discombobulated by, Emery being sacked. They gave Freddie a month. They didn't bring Arteta in until January, and then COVID delayed everything. So the normal window was delayed. The end of the season was delayed. But as I pointed out, if this had been a traditional season, if there were no COVID, if Emery had, say, been sacked at the end of the season in May, the beginning of May, and Arteta had been brought in immediately thereafter, and then a couple of weeks later, they announced, hey, the 55 redundancies, we're turning over the organization. We have redundancies in the organization. We have redundancies in our front office. Raul is moving on, and we're putting a new system in place for the new manager. I don't think anybody would blink. And I think this is just because everything has just been out of joint, out of sequence. But, if we really take a step back and say, okay, it's been clear Mikel has players he wants, right? It's clear that he has new formations that he wants going forward. And you made this clear yesterday in a video about a direction when Willian signing. We haven't even talked about Willian. That's how crazy things are. But I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think that, and there are fans who are kind of distraught about this, and I think it's fear of the unknown, that were this just done in the quote-unquote normal sequence of events, people would not be as caught off guard or feeling threatened by this.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It is simply because of the disjointed nature, in my opinion. I definitely agree with you there. We had the FA Cup final in August rather than May. We've had, obviously, the big restart of the season where we've had so many games played. I think everyone's nose is just put out of joint in all this. We're going to be restarting the season on, was it October 5th? No, that's when the window ends. September 12th, isn't it? Something like that. Blimey, wow, okay, yeah, because you've got the Community Shield coming up in 2. And then, So, everything's just happening all at once. And I feel, as you say, if it had started and finished as and when, and these redundancies were needed and everything, no one would have batted an eyelid. People would have understood more. But I feel Arsenal would have got it out better, would have got it out clearer. Yeah, there's a lot that's been happening surrounding everything else that it needs to be done. And it's time sensitive now. And where it's so time sensitive, I think when everything's settled down, there may be another interview with someone like Edu, with Vinay, with Josh even maybe, where he can sort of backtrack and say, this is why this happened. as you know, this was going, and, you know, be a bit more clearer and in sort of, I guess, giving out that information. But, you know, I definitely echo it's got to be down to the nature of how the season has gone.
All right. So, but let's talk about the topic one, because having your director of football walk out at the beginning of a transfer window when the only move you've made so far is to bring in Willian, and he was announced yesterday, I think it has a lot of people very fearful that is Arsenal going to be able to complete the deals that they have in place? Again, circumstantial evidence points to that being yes. You know, I think we're still bullish on the Thomas Partey deal being resolved in some way. But let's talk about a transfer that kind of was hinted at, and a lot of fans, I think, were pining for this. You know, let's go back a week to the Tuesday pod. We were talking about Dani Ceballos being brought back to Real Madrid, and we were pondering what happens. He was the plan number 8, and he was playing very well for the club. But if he stays at Real, what do they do? And, you know, a lot of fans were throwing the name Houssem Aouar into our chat. And, you know, that seems like a good name. And Ryan had brought him up as a player that he really, really likes. And then, lo and behold, yesterday, a story comes out in L'Equipe that, in fact, Arsenal have been in negotiation or in talks with Lyon for him.
Yeah, it's wonderful how these things come to fruition, isn't it? I mean, one of us may mention a player we really love, and then suddenly, lo and behold, we are linked. So yeah, as the story unfolds, that the Equipe have said, Edu himself has contacted Lyon. And I mean, you may want to follow up on that in a sec, but obviously that jumps into the whole thing with Raul no longer being here. Edu contacted them personally. I think the deal was a proposed swap with Guendouzi and some cash for Houssem Aouar. Right. Very strange that they're now saying Lyon were rejecting the notion of Guendouzi, although they're happy to do a deal. They want just cash. They don't feel they need another midfielder, even if Houssem Aouar leaves. However, there was a story way back when all this started with Guendouzi, that Lyon were very interested in him. So that one
came out of the French press. I went back and looked at it. It was July. It was a month ago. It was 5 weeks ago, July the 6th. And it came out from Canal Plus in France that it made it seem like Lyon was initiating the contact, that if they were to lose Aouar in the summer, that Guendouzi was a player that they eyed as a replacement. So it all seems like the parts seem to kind of fit. I'm wondering if this is, you know, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, right? Lyon plays in a little while, and maybe like a couple of hours, they're going to play their Champions League match. So they're still alive. You know, you don't want the news. It's like the Coutinho rumor, right? You don't want to unsettle the player where he's playing their Champions League match. They have their chairman, Alas, is notorious for, you know, being a hard case at the bargaining table. So you're not going to get an easy sell there. If we all remember the Lacazette deal, that was thorny. There was a lot of, it was played out in the press. You know, this is going to be a taffy pull, but it seems like the parts are there, right? I mean, I say keep an eye on it. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but keep an eye on it, definitely. This is not the end of this story. I think it's probably the beginning of it.
Yeah, I think this is where it begins to unfold, definitely. I mean, there's another one in Serie A that seems to be going in that direction as well, and that's Lucas Torreira and Diawara. But I think we can leave that for another time. But they definitely seem to have the same mantle, where the other club seems to be looking at our player, and then we propose a swap, and they go, not sure about that. But then I think that's where it sort of starts to unravel now.
Okay, again, we got to wrap this up. Again, this is a snap pod. There's a lot of news. We're just going to address it and touch on a lot of topics and a lot of concerns, because we're seeing concerns and legitimate ones. I'm not going to downplay them or say people are panicking. I think it's perfectly legitimate. You know, your director of football walks out at the beginning of your window. But let's talk about the overall picture, because I think, you know, we've been talking about this for weeks, that we're going to see a big clear out. And I'm still of the opinion that a lot of players are going to go out, that we've seen so many players who were targeted to go out. We can talk about, you know, Torreira. We can talk about possibly Niles. We can talk about Holding, Chambers, Socrates, definitely. El Neni, definitely. It seems like Lacazette is going out. It seems to be a big clear out, but I think especially with the Raul news, we thought, well, they've got so many people that can work on deals. I'm coming down, and I don't want to speak for Ryan, but he was kicking it about. You and I were kicking it about. I'll let you address it in a moment. I think we're going with what we call the short core philosophy now. I think Arsenal's still looking to bring in as much money, sell as many players who are no longer part of Mikel's plan as possible, but maybe shorten the list of targets to about 4, maybe 5 priority. Obviously, Willian is in. I think Thomas Partey is on that short list. And we're thinking, who are the other 2? Could it be Coutinho? Could it be Aouar? It seems kind of far-fetched in both of them because they're expensive. And then we're looking at a defensive back, a center back. Are they going to go for Gabriel? And that he's still very much on Arsenal's radar, or perhaps go for a guy like Diego Carlos. It seems that if they sell the players, as we said before, they'll have the money, but time seems to be of the essence now. The big smorgasbord of buys seems time's ruling against that.
Yeah, it does, especially in my opinion, sort of unfootball related. But the locations of our targets, we already know Spain is a UK acquired isolation area for when people come back from that country. France got added to that list yesterday, I think, or Wednesday night, which means, we were knocking about the idea of players going from Spain to France and coming to England, not having to quarantine or what have you, because they got the temperature tests and all that. But so things like that, time is of the essence, and even more so with these countries now, which is where we seem to be looking for our targets added to that quarantine list. But yeah, going back to just the point you made there, the main one about the 4 or 5 players, as you say, me and you are knocking it about. You and Ryan have been knocking that about for some time now. Sam as well. We've all said it. Getting that core sort of 4 or 5 elite players and then building good players around them. So as you say, Gabriel or Diego Carlos, we've already got Leno in goal, or even Martinez if he stays. I mean, you could argue elite, you could argue excellent players, but they're there, top class. Then you've got obviously Partey or Aouar or Coutinho. Willian's already there to balance things, as was addressed yesterday. They already have said we are looking for another forward player as well. So whether that means if Lacazette goes, someone up top there, or an attacking mid/winger, as Arteta kind of alluded to, but essentially it's the spine.
Yeah,
and it just addresses that we are rebalancing it. Getting good players we may already have, Martinelli, Saka, etc. Elite players, Partey, Houssam Aouar, players like that, and just balancing it out again with youth and experience, i.e. Willian, maybe Coutinho.
Yeah. Something else to consider, and this is just food for Tuesday's pod. Obviously, there are a lot of parts in motion, a lot is moving, but Edu, it seems, is now taken the role. He is now the lone director of football, right? And we could talk about what that means in greater depth when we have everybody together and we have a little more time on Tuesday. But again, he works with the Brazilian national team. Look at some of these targets: Gabriel Magalhães, Diego Carlos, Philippe Coutinho. They're all Brazilians. Willian is in; he's another Brazilian, right? So you figure that influence probably has a hand if they're looking at a short core that he knows very well, probably the manager knows well. Something else to consider, all right, as we look at the either or on the menu. At the center back, Gabriel is 22, Diego Carlos is 26. If you're looking at the advanced role, the attacking midfield role, Philippe Coutinho is 28. Aouar is only 22. So you've got 2 young and 2 kind of what we say prime players as options. So, a lot of factors to kick around. We're running a little short on time. Again, I don't want to turn a pop pod into a full-blown pod. And I want everybody to have a chance to speak for themselves. So obviously, we want you all to come back on Tuesday, and we'll bring your questions, bring your names, bring your suggestions, and we'll kick those about. Dean, again, this team is not boring. You can talk about them being discombobulated or frustrating or exciting. They're not boring, and I assume that in the next 3 days, we're going to get some more curveballs.
Oh, well, my mic was playing up there. Sorry. Yeah, no, definitely. We're going to be definitely seeing a lot more going on. I expect a few more announcements that we may have been hoping for prior to now. But I guess, again, the club knew that again, wasn't the right time for certain things. I can see a lot happening between now and when pre-season starts.
We haven't talked about Lacazette. We haven't talked about Aubameyang, right? Aubameyang.
Exactly.
By the time we meet on Tuesday, there's so many parts in motion, so much to discuss, and I guess we're just going to have to leave it there. And again, as the theme of the other day was more questions than answers, and it seems Arsenal just want to throw more questions at us. And today certainly raises more questions, and we'll try to find some answers for you. But again, join us again on Tuesday. Full complement, hopefully a fuller list of topics and answers for you in this very puzzling Saturday. For Dean, I'm Raphael. We'll hopefully have Sam and Ryan back on Tuesday. But again, thanks for joining us. Keep your questions coming. Keep your visits coming. We love talking Arsenal football with you. Till the next time. Bye now. Saved by the Bellerin is a sports talkline production. This pod features work by Dean, Raphael, Ryan, Sammy, Marissa, and Freddie. Music is provided by Purple Planet Music, which can be found online at www.purple-planet.com. Thank you for listening.